So basic scientific notation is a way to take a very large number like this one, or a very small number like this one, and turn it into something that you can easily use, whether to write it down or to type it into a calculator. So let's start with this first number here. If you don't see a decimal place, the decimal place is always at the very end. So I'm going to put it right there. And for me, scientific notation means that we're going to move that decimal place so there's one non-zero number to the left and up to two numbers to the right. And so this one will become 8.6. That 5 means we're going to round that up. 8 times 10. And we got to get the exponent for this. So if we start here, we move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So the exponent will be 10. And that literally means take 8.68 times 10, 10 times. So 8.68 times 10 times 10 times 10, all the way till you get to that number. Now, I have students ask me, well, Mr. Lee, this is still a big number. How can we justify like just getting rid of all this stuff right here? And it has to do with the proportion of things. Like, for example, a person like Bill Gates, who's one of the richest men on the planet still today. He has billions of dollars. Let's say he dropped $100,000 out of his pocket. Would he really notice, besides for the change in weight? I would say he probably wouldn't, because it's not even going to show up as like a decent decimal point on his bank account. Me, on the other hand, if I lose $5, I'm looking pretty hard. But for him, his first number, that one there, is so big that this, even though it's a big number, is not big compared to that. So it's okay if we can do this. Same thing if we got this number here. Here's our decimal point. We're going to move it to here. So this is going to become 7.93. We don't have to round up because that number's not big enough. Times 10. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because we're going to move it to right there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positions. But we're going this way. So since we're going this way, we actually are going to use a negative. So negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Now this one, that negative means actually we're going to do the exact opposite of this, where that's 7.93, and we're going to divide, since that's negative, this number by 10 that many times. So 7.93 divided by 10, that number divided by 10, that number divided by 10. So it's sort of like this. 2 to the minus 1 is pretty much 1/2, where that means we're just going to drop it below. Now, to take a number out of scientific notation, we actually need to move the decimal point the opposite direction that we did up here. So this number will be 7, actually no point there, just 8, 4, and we're going to move the decimal point 6 places. But we're thinking about we're multiplying by 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just fill in the rest of these with zeros. So we get this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The new decimal place will be at the end. This one, again, we're going to think divide. So when we divide, we're going to move the decimal point the other direction when we take a number out. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this becomes 0.000934. But here's something important. Always put that 0 in front of the decimal point. Be very picky about that. That's important. Don't just put 0.9 or 0.000934. It's 0.000934. Make sure you always do that. So we can put a number into scientific notation. We take a number out of scientific notation. Well, we do this so we can do math. So if we take a look at some math problems. Now this is where I'm going to bring in a calculator here. Now I've got a couple. This one's a Casio, and Casio's use this EXP, and several other brands use EXP for their scientific notation. So if I was going to put this number in, 4.20 times 10 to the fourth, with this one I just put 4.2. The O we can put in, or we can leave out for this one. And then we hit exp for times 10. The calculator knows that that means times 10, and we just hit 4. So the calculator sees that as 4.20 times 10 to the fourth. And it knows to keep that together as a single number. If you use the whole times 10 and use the caret thing, that works fine if you're just multiplying. But if you're going to do division, or if you're going to do some more higher order mathematics, like maybe square it or do something like that, take a square root, then unless you're really good with parentheses, the calculator's not going to keep that as one number. But if you use the EXP, or with the Texas Instruments, they have an EE button. Whether it's a dedicated button like this one, or you have to hit second and then another button to find the EE button. Either way, that means times 10 for it. So for Texas Instruments here, we get 4.20, and then I would hit EE, and then 4. And that's 4.2 times 10 to the fourth power for the Texas Instruments calculator. All right. I want to keep the Casio here on my desk and use it for it. So if we're going to add these two numbers, doing it by hand the old school way is pretty nice if the exponents match, because then you just do this math if you're multiplying or subtracting. Now, if the exponents don't match, then you have a little bit more stuff that you got to do. But let's just go ahead and use the calculator for this one. So we've got 4.20 exp4 plus 6.35 exp4, and we get this one. And the calculator took it out of scientific notation. So we get 105500. But for the sake of practice, I'm going to put this number back in the scientific notation. So that'll be 1.06 times 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. That will be the number back into scientific notation. Easy way to do it is, if it matched, simply add these two numbers together and then put times 10 to the fourth. And in this case, you would have slid it over one more time to get to the fifth power. On this one, the exponents don't match. So if you're doing it by hand, you want to make sure the exponents match. So I would make this a 6 and move that decimal point over 1, and then rewrite and then just add these up and keep the exponent. But for this one, let's go ahead and use the calculator again. So 8.4. It's okay that it didn't have 2. I said a maximum of 2 to the right-hand side. exp 6 plus 6.43 exp 4 equals, and we get this one, 9043000. So again, I want to put it back in scientific notation. So that becomes 9.43 times 10, and we're going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So to the 6th power. All right. Now, let's take a look at down here at the bottom where we're going to do some multiplication. Now, multiplication in scientific notation is actually pretty easy, because or division, because you'll multiply, divide the numbers, and then add the exponents if you're multiplying. And if it's division, you're going to subtract the exponents. Let's go ahead again, use the calculator, and see what we get. So we get 4 times 10 to the 8th times 6 times 10 to the 4th. And we get, now this time the calculator kept it in scientific notation. See that exponent right there? You have to pay attention to those. Some calculators will have like a little times 10 and then the exponent. However your calculator does it, get used to that format. So this becomes 2.4 times 10 to the 13. If we had multiplied these, that would have been 24. And then add the exponents, 8 plus 4 would have been 12. But remember our decimal points here, and we want it over there. So it'll be 2.4 times 10, and add one more to that, to 13, which is what we got right there. This one, since we're doing division, we would actually divide these two numbers. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then times 10. And since we're dividing, we actually subtract these two numbers. So it would be 3 minus 5. So we get to the negative 2 power. Now if we do this on the calculator, we'll see what that looks like. 8 times 10 to the third divided by 2 times 10 to the fifth. And we get 0.04. But I want to put that in scientific notation. So I want to move the decimal point 2 times over that way. So it becomes 4 times 10 to the minus 2, which is again what we got there. Let's try a little bit longer question. So let's do these. All right. So I want to just do it on the calculator. 3 times 10 to the third times 4 times 10 to the fifth divided by, and this is where if you don't use the EE or EXP button properly, it will totally mess things up, especially when you do division. 6 EXP to the negative 4. Make sure you use that, not this. Use the plus or minus button. And it equals, we get 2 times 10 to the 12th. Now let's double check it the old-fashioned way. Okay, 3 divided by 6 is half. Half of 4 is 2. Times 10. 3 plus 5 is 8. Then we're going to subtract a negative 4. So 8 minus a minus 4 gives us 12, which again is the same thing. Now, when do you put a number into scientific notation? Really, if it takes up less space on the paper, put it in scientific notation. If it doesn't, then don't. Like I wouldn't put 250 in scientific notation, because 250 in scientific notation is 2.50, even if you leave that off, to the second power. That still takes up more space than this. But I would put definitely I would put that in scientific notation. And so we get 1.04 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, seventh power. So it's kind of a personal preference, but I go by if it actually takes up less physical space on the paper, put in scientific notation. If it doesn't, then leave it as a regular number. Okay? Thank you, and I'll see you again for another video. Bye.